Chapter 645 Ocean Emperor Tsunami. The Black Vatican wanted Salin alive. They had offered to tell them the location of the imperial tomb. The real threat to the city was not the undead that had remained active in the rain, but the other ruler-level undead that would be awakened once the ancestor of undead, Ying Zheng, was fully awakened. Their final glimpse of hope was to locate the imperial tomb and stop the ancient king from being resurrected. It would then drive the ocean of undead away. Let them go. Han Ji coldly gave the order. A group of imperial magicians first led Councilman Zhu Meng out from custody. Zhu Meng looked fairly calm, yet he was slightly disappointed knowing that the higher-ups of the Magic Association had decided to get rid of him together with the others, just to eliminate Salin. The imperial magician removed the spell controlling Councilman Zhu Meng. The councilman tidied his slightly disheveled beard and glanced at Mo Fan beside him helplessly. "I never thought you would be the one saving my life. I don't think anyone here will have a good ending if either the fish dies or the net splits," said Mo Fan. Who would have thought that the Magic Association would be forced to make a decision like this? Zhu Meng let out a sigh, and somehow looked a lot more aged than he used to. "Saving people is harder than killing," said Mo Fan. Zhu Meng was stunned, before he smiled wryly. After Zhu Meng, the rest of the authorities were released one by one. Han Ji did not release them in a random fashion. He actually kept the most suspicious ones for later. When Du Xiao slowly walked up to the crowd after the restrictions on him were lifted, Han Ji raised his hand, signaling his men to halt the process. "You can tell us now." Han Ji's voice was filled with strong murderous intent. As the president of the Magic Association, he was held responsible for every decision he made. If the location of the imperial tomb was not the key to saving the lives of millions of people, he would have torn Mu He into pieces long ago. Mu He showed no sign of panic. He took his time walking to the edge of the balcony and stood in front of the cement railings. He cast a glance at Zhang Xiaohua and nodded in satisfaction when he discovered that less black gas was being released from his body. He shifted his gaze into the distance in the north. After a long time, this great deacon Hu Jin still remained silent. Han Ji's murderous intent grew stronger gradually as time went by. "Patient, you will see it very soon, before the night comes." Great Deacon Hu Jin simply stood there with his gaze looking to the north. His gaze was not fixed on the northern gate, but the area beyond the Yuan Gate that was already devoured by the Black Ocean. The area used to be Weiyang District. They could barely see the shadows of some tall buildings standing there, with countless zombies, skeletons, and phantoms moving around them. Almost every building had a pair of eyes emitting a red gleam at the top. The owner of those eyes either had a body strong as steel, or a body large enough to sway the building. It was likely that even magicians with high positions had never seen so many commander-level creatures showing up simultaneously. The night had almost arrived. The constant rain drifted in the wind. The sky was hazier further into the distance. No one knew how many creatures were out there, behind the veil of rain and darkness. Around 3 kilometers away from an Yuan Gate, a dark blue tide suddenly appeared between the dark land and the clouds hanging low above the ground. White waves rolled across the air, with howls so loud that the entire inner city could hear them. It felt like a fierce ocean had simply appeared between the sky and the ground. Its magnificence and splendor were breathtaking, like a tsunami a few kilometers wide rolling over the shore. Luckily, the tsunami was not heading toward the inner city. The ocean that was pouring down from the sky was rolling in the direction of the undead. Initially, there was no vacant space around an Yuan Gate, as the whole place was occupied by stacks of undead. However, as the waves rolled forward, thousands of undead were devoured by the shocking tsunami as it traveled further away from an Yuan Gate. The tsunami was a certain distance away from the clock tower, but while it was rolling in the sky and poured down like a few tens of waterfalls, Mo Fan somehow felt like it was happening right in front of him. His astonishment from witnessing a water spell comparable to a tsunami was greater than that he had experienced after witnessing the light spell, Holy Essence, Demon Judgment Sword. "Lu Huan is making his move," Zhu Meng said calmly. "The captain of the Imperial Magicians?" asked Mo Fan. His strength is on par with Han Ji's. If I were to fight him, I'd lose miserably in less than 10 rounds. He's strong enough to take on the Nether Bone Ruler alone, said Zhu Meng. As soon as Zhu Meng finished his sentence, a piercing screech came from outside the inner walls. The people in the city immediately covered their ears. Every piece of glass of the buildings inside the barrier were shattered into pieces. Mo Fan raised his head and discovered a huge bony creature descending from the clouds. As it dropped below the clouds, it extended its sinister wings fully. The force of its movements simply cleared away the raindrops nearby, as if someone had just thrown a strong punch at the curtain of rain. The raindrops struck the curved golden barrier like arrows. The golden barrier would only stop things that posed a certain level of threat to the city. Normally, the barrier would not stop the raindrops from falling through it, but the raindrops launched by the Nether Bone Ruler landed crisply on the barrier. How strong exactly was the creature? The Nether Bone Ruler won't stand there and watch once Lu Huan starts to attack. His super water spell, Ocean Emperor Tsunami, can easily eliminate between 2,000 to 3,000 undead when they are stacked together like that, said Zhu Meng. A super spell, mumbled Mo Fan to himself. The sky was turning darker. The people on the clock tower could barely see Lu Huan flying around in the rain as he fought the Nether Bone Ruler. Most spells that Lu Huan cast were super level. He adeptly mixed in some advanced spells before channeling the next super spell. The light he was emitting was brighter than the entire troop of magicians on the walls. The energy he produced was enough to blast thousands of undead into nothing. The people standing on the clock tower were authorities, able to cast super spells too. However, no one would dare to fight a ruler undead outside the golden barrier like Lu Huan. The whole city was witnessing Lu Huan's bravery. It brought a glimpse of hope to the city that was currently on the edge of a cliff. Magician, he was a real magician. Even the darkness produced by calamity was unable to hide his brilliance. Having such a brave imperial magician can be considered a great fortune in the midst of misfortune. It's a pity that there's only one Lu Huan, Great Deacon Hu Jin commented cuttingly. It seems like you're only wasting our time, but it's time for you to die, said Han Ji coldly. It is my time to die indeed, but are you sure you don't want to wait a bit longer? The king's tomb is coming, said Great Deacon Hu Jin. Not long after he finished the sentence, he began to tremble as he saw something in the distance. His voice echoed on the clock tower as it went from a deep chuckle to a wild laugh. It's here, ha ha, ha 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 ha. Chapter 646 The Dark Abyss Strikes the City. Mo Fan really thought Great Deacon Hu Jin had completely lost it. It was dumb to try negotiating with these crazy maniacs. However, when Mo Fan followed Mu He's passionate gaze, he somehow felt like his understanding of the world was completely toppled. Lu Huan was fighting the Nether Bone Ruler in the sky. Waves of energy continuously rippled in the air, but the space they were fighting in was peeling off. The area drenched in the rain was devoured, like wallpaper peeling off from the walls. The gaps that appeared were immersed in chaos, like a black hole had suddenly appeared out of nowhere, although there was something else in it, apart from darkness. The space fell apart and twisted. The chaotic black hole slowly spread larger. It expanded from a little black dot into a huge gap under the sky. It looked like a gap from here, but it was most likely a shocking chasm in the air. The twisted space extended to the clouds. Even the thick clouds were torn apart, leaving an obvious hole between the sections, as if a piece of the sky had just fallen. Is that? Han Ji's eyes almost popped out from his sunken eye sockets. Zhu Meng and Du Xiao were standing close to Mo Fan. They were both staring into the distance in shock. They simply could not believe what they were seeing. The twisted space gradually fell to the ground. The huge gap of emptiness continued to expand, and gradually turned into a chaotic spinning vortex of blackness. The ground beneath the gaps sank rapidly all of a sudden. The place was already crawling with undead, yet as the ground sank, over 10,000 undead simply fell into the hole. They could see the undead in the form of black dots pouring into the hole like raindrops. No one knew how deep exactly the ground had sunken. It totally looked like the entrance to hell slowly opening up, or some astonishingly large creature opening up its throat. Cries of phantoms and the roars of undead were rising non-stop. The most terrifying, chilliest sound in the world appeared from the huge pit that had been formed in just an instant. It was the combination of the cries uttered by tens of thousands of phantoms simultaneously. They were truly the cries of hell, filled with utter despair, hatred, and utmost pain. Even though they could not see the scene inside the pit, they could simply imagine what it would look like down there from the overwhelming cries of the army of undead. "It's the dark abyss," someone exclaimed all of a sudden, sending chills down the spines of everyone, as their limbs began to tremble and their scalps began to turn numb. The furnace of hell, a place where the zombies were stacked into mountains, the skeletons were covering the surface, and the phantoms as huge as the size of clouds floating around. It was the legendary Black Zone, the dark abyss. The hatred and presence of death were so overwhelming that they simply twisted the space. Almost every magician believed that it was the entrance to hell. The real hell was lying right beneath it. Everyone's eyes seemed to be attracted to the black hole, their spirits draining away. However, Hu Jin's piercing laugh was still echoing in their ears, dealing suffocating blows to their fragile souls. "Ha ha ha, that's the answer you are looking for. The greatest necromancer in history has placed his imperial tomb right there, a place scarier than hell. Feel free to go and negotiate with him. Ha 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 ha." Mew, he burst out laughing. His face was completely twisted from his laugh, yet his passionate eyes were staring at the dark abyss with utmost sincerity, and a hint of excitement, as if he was enjoying the spectacular view of a starry sky. "Are you saying that the ancient king's imperial tomb is inside the dark abyss?" blurted out the mysterious man in fear. Even with the mask, everyone could see the muscles on his face twitching. The dark abyss. The answer was the dark abyss. My God, is that even somewhere a human can go? A black zone, a forbidden place for humans. Most people on the clock tower were super magicians, yet the timidity they were displaying when facing the dark abyss was not much different than the helpless commoners trying to survive from the calamity. No wonder the Black Vatican was so fearless. No wonder Mew he was willing to trade the answer they sought for Salin's life. As a matter of fact, knowing the answer did not bring any difference to the situation, unless someone was able to walk out from the dark abyss unharmed. That was simply impossible, even for Han Ji, who was the strongest magician among them. "Lu Huan and the Nether Bone Ruler are being dragged toward the dark abyss," someone screamed all of a sudden. An uproar took place on the clock tower. With their attention drawn by the dark abyss, they had completely forgotten that Lu Huan was fighting the Nether Bone Ruler inside the chaotic vortex right above the dark abyss. The dark gap from before had expanded into an actual black hole. They could see the air vortex slowly yet forcibly tearing the space apart. Both Lu Huan and Nether Bone Ruler were caught by the force. They tried to escape from it, yet their bodies were gradually being dragged toward the furnace of hell underneath them. That was one of the strongest super magicians and a ruler skeleton, yet even they could not escape from the power of the Black Forbidden Area. The people of the city were watching Lu Huan with their hearts stuck in their throats. It felt like their thoughts were being dragged into the dark abyss together with their hero, like a helpless man stepping into a huge swamp. Mo Fan was experiencing a tremendous shock too, his eyes wide open. He initially thought Lu Huan could break free from the dark abyss with his strength, yet both he and the Nether Bone Ruler were being dragged toward the entrance of hell. As soon as they fell into the pit, it somehow felt like the dark abyss had grown slightly larger. Mo Fan stared at the pit. He was still clinging onto the final glimpse of hope, hoping that Lu Huan would still make his way out of the dark abyss, yet it did not happen. Lu Huan had fallen into the pit, so had the Nether Bone Ruler. The dark abyss did not distinguish between humans and undead. The Nether Bone Ruler was in a panic, as it too would be turned into nothing inside the pit. Silence. The whole place was immersed in dead silence, as if every sound wave was sucked into the bottom of the terrifying abyss. The curtain of rain remained connected to the clouds. The army of undead was covering the horizon. Between the gray sky and the dark ground was a space vortex that seemed to be leading to a different world and the terrifying dark abyss. It was a scene that no one could comprehend, one that everyone thought could only appear in a nightmare. By the way, as a token of sincerity from the Black Vatican, I can also tell you another piece of information. Can you kindly release the rest of the authorities? Hu Jin smiled after he finished enjoying the spectacular scene. Han Ji was frozen in his spot. He seemed soulless when he gave the command. The Imperial magicians let the rest of the authorities go. Lu Shu, Ling Shi, Li Yujian, and the others were released, one after another. However, when they saw the nightmarish scenery before them, they somehow felt like the place was no better than hell. Chapter 647 The Apotheosis Ceremony. The dark abyss is getting closer to the city, Mo Fan spoke up before Hu Jin could continue. Mo Fan's words brought a great shock to the crowd, so strong that even their inner organs were almost shattered by the impact. The dark abyss was moving toward the inner city. Zhu Meng was the first to react. He quickly recalled the last few appearances of the dark abyss. The first time was at the end of the drifting sand river, around 700 kilometers to the west of the ancient capital. The second time was at Xianqi, where the villages were located. The third time was to the north of the city, only 30 kilometers away. This time, it had simply appeared right in the city. Even though the city north was already devoured by the ocean of undead, it had always been moving toward the city. If the dark abyss that could easily kill the Nether Bone ruler appeared right on top of the inner city filled with millions of people. Zhu Meng shuddered. His eyes widened, to the extent that they almost exploded. He did not dare to imagine it further. The next space shift of the dark abyss will be the time of death for all of you. Whether it be the commoners as common as cockroaches or mice in this city, or you magicians with high positions, you are going to die. You're all going to die. Ha ha ha, what a festival! It is the greatest time ever for our Vatican, and our senior Salin is about to become a god during this festival. Everyone will kneel in front of the god of death, Salin's feet. They will submit to his wisdom and invention. Hu Jin's passionate behavior served as a bright contrast to the silence among the magicians on the clock tower. It turned out the dark abyss had always been the Black Vatican's plan. No wonder Zhang Xiaohou had bumped into Mu He close to the dark abyss, as they were behind it all along. Looking at the situation, would anyone still think that Salin and his men were just a motley group of people? This Salin was really the god of death, the deity of darkness who lived to create death. Human lives were not just cheap in his eyes. A city that had existed for thousands of years was simply the venue he had chosen for his festival. The undead surrounding the city were escorts for him as he ascended the stairs. Meanwhile, the lives of the millions of people in the city, and the despair and sacrifice of the super magicians, were the bright red carpet that he would be stepping on as he ascended the stairs and apotheosized in the midst of the greatest burial of the century, so the whole world would simply tremble and submit to him. The festival was simply Salin's apotheosis ceremony. The dark abyss was terrifying, yet how scary was it compared to Salin's heart? Great Deacon Hu Jin was already worshipping to the north. The people were lost with words, seeing how devout he was. However, the one that brought a greater impact to their minds was Salin, whose heart was just as terrifying as the dark abyss. He had conducted the festival just to tell the world that Salin, the god of death, was standing right here in the ancient capital. Han Ji was feeling regret on top of the despair swarming his heart. If they proceeded with their plan, the millions of people in the city would die, and so would Salin. The man did not even give everyone the chance to be afraid of him. He was worthy of being called the god of death, without a doubt. However, what was the point of feeling regretful now? With the ocean of undead surrounding the inner city, the dark abyss would most likely appear right in the center of the inner city after tomorrow's dusk. The little city would be consumed by the furnace of hell, including the millions of people inside it. As tears rolled down Hanji's cheek, he dropped to his knees helplessly. The extremely talented magician had turned into a decrepit old man at this moment. Salin, just take whatever you want, but I, Han Ji, am begging you, Please spare the people in this city." Hanji's voice was trembling. The reputable president of the Clock Tower Magic Association, the formidable spells he had mastered throughout his life, were merely froth and shadows. All he had left was a pleading voice. The authorities looked at Hanji in disbelief. The man who had never surrendered to the evil influence was begging the Black Vatican for mercy. He was kneeling in front of the Red Cardinal Salin. How miserable did he need to be, and how shattered was his dignity to be able to do such a thing? The mysterious man stood there with a blank expression. It turned out that he was never close to learning the Black Vatican's real conspiracy. He had suffered a complete defeat. The ancient king's imperial tomb was located in the unstoppable Dark Abyss. The Dark Abyss would eventually drift into the inner city. The whole place was going to be dragged into the abyss of hell. The so-called glimpse of hope was actually taking away everyone's last glimpse of hope, urging them to prepare themselves to sacrifice their lives for the Black Vatican's grand ceremony. The mysterious man glanced at the authority figures who had been released. Everyone was wearing the same despair and blank face, yet he knew that one of them was actually laughing in his heart, like a devil that had trampled the city under feet tied with black chains. "It's no use, President." The mysterious man helped Hanji to his feet. If Salin's true goal was to trample the authority and dignity of the Magic Association that had lasted for thousands of years, he had already done it. It was exactly as Great Deacon Hu Jin had mentioned. Salin was aiming to become a god of death that would shock the whole world. The festival was necessary, so was the destruction of the whole city. How long had they been planning the festival? The Black Vatican had managed to dig up even more secrets than the Magic Association was aware of. They knew the secrets of the villages, how Bo City was related to the villages, the secrets of the Dark Abyss, and the way to control where it would appear. Were they really going to wait for their deaths, just like that? The mysterious man was still supporting Hanji. His eyes were still fixed on the people who had been released, trying to find something suspicious from their reaction. Besides, if they knew they were actually going to be executed before they were held in custody, would they really have surrendered that easily? Everyone had the desire to stay alive. Even if he ordered the imperial magicians to capture and execute them, the person that tried to resist would not necessarily be Salin. Both sides would simply suffer losses from the infighting. As the mysterious man was lost in despair and anger, an imperial magician slowly walked up to him and handed him a letter. The mysterious man opened the letter. His eyes flickered when he saw the symbols that only he could read. The man had finally brought back the news. The mysterious man quickly read the message. His expression changed gradually the more he read the content. His hands even started trembling in the end. Hope, the last line was the real hope they were looking for. The mysterious man immediately looked at Fang Ji-yu, Mo Fan, Zhang Xiaohou, and the others. Yet considering that Salin was still among them, he immediately whispered into Hanji's ears. Hanji's blank pupils finally recovered. "Are you serious? Can we trust the man?" asked Hanji. "We definitely can," the mysterious man said confidently. "But, can they actually do it?" said Hanji. "We have no other choice. It's the only chance we have, no matter how slim it is," said the mysterious man firmly. Chapter 648 The Descendants of the Ancient King. As the people were lost in their thoughts, someone blurted out fiercely, "I would rather die trying than wait for my death here." "Yeah, it's better to die fighting than fall into the Dark Abyss," said Lu Shu. Even though their efforts might be in vain, if they were given a choice, they would rather charge out of the Golden Barrier and fight the undead until the end. "Count me in," exclaimed Li Yujian. Feeling depressed and hopeless was not something a super magician should do. They should be dying gloriously on the battlefield instead, dragging a few corpse officials and phantom generals with them, or even kill a ruler undead. It would be their glory. "Everyone, let's calm down first," said the mysterious man. "We're not calming down. Even if we're about to die, we are going to die a glorious death. If Salin is really among us putting up an act, we'll drag him out there with us, and we'll see whether the asshole or us is going to die first," cursed the elder of the Hunter Union. "Let's fight our way out of here, but we're not simply trying to get ourselves killed." We've just received some information from a reliable source. The Dark Abyss might be deadly, so deadly that even Lu Huan and the Nether Bone ruler could not escape from it. Yet it doesn't mean we can't go into it, the mysterious man told the people on the clock tower. The words immediately caught everyone's attention, and their eyes began to flicker. It's possible to go into the Dark Abyss? There's actually a way to enter the Dark Abyss. Even a strong magician like Lu Huan was sucked into it. They could not even tell if he was still alive. No one was stronger than Lu Huan among them. They would most likely die if they were to jump into the Dark Abyss. We can now confirm that the Dark Abyss is the ancient king's imperial tomb. He created the pit of death 2,000 years ago when he fell into an eternal sleep, just so no one would disturb his peace, said the mysterious man. The person who had sent him the letter had verified the piece of information. The fact that the ancient king's imperial tomb was located under the Dark Abyss was incredibly shocking. It explained why no one had managed to locate the tomb after so many years. The ancestor of the undead, Ying Zheng, was the emperor with the greatest ambition ever in the thousands of years old magic civilization. His talent in the earth element was incredibly shocking. The perfect condition of the Great Wall of China that was still holding the demon creatures off in the north was one of his greatest achievements. A great talent when alive, but a terrifying ghost when dead. It was the perfect description for the emperor of the Qin dynasty, Ying Zheng. The ability to place his imperial tomb under the Dark Abyss was still shocking to the magicians from the current era. No one, including the strongest magician, is allowed to step into the imperial tomb. Yet there is a group of people that the Dark Abyss won't reject. They are the people of the villages, said the mysterious man excitedly, while pointing at Fang Jiyu. Everyone quickly shifted their attention to Fang Jiyu, who was also quite surprised himself. He glanced at the mysterious man with a confused look. The undead will not attack the people from the dangerous villages, as they are the descendants of the ancient king. The Dark Abyss will destroy everything, stopping every living thing that tries to invade the imperial tomb. However, the door of the imperial tomb is always open to the people from the villages, said the mysterious man. If they were able to capture a glimpse of light when they completely lost hope, it felt like they suddenly had something to look forward to. It was worth the try. At least it was better than waiting for their death helplessly. Are you saying that the people from the villages can enter the Dark Abyss? Is that true? Are you sure about that? How can you be sure of that? Zhu Meng quickly went forward with a stern look. The person who gave me the information is very reliable. It's true that we can't verify the information whether the people from the villages are safe to enter the Dark Abyss, but we have to try, said the mysterious man grimly. Fang Jiyu fell silent when he suddenly became everyone's hope. He finally spoke with a not-so-confident voice. Our villages strictly follow our ancestors' teachings. Everyone from the villages knows about it, but the chiefs are also told to hold on to some secret information. It does mention that we are protected by the gods, that even if we fell into the kingdom of death, we will still be treated as the most honorable guests. I can't tell if it's referring to the Dark Abyss. The villages had existed for thousands of years. It was a miracle that they were still holding on to their traditions. It was expected that the things passed down generations after generations would not be perfectly preserved. In the case of Bo City, without the underground holy spring and the people protecting it, no one would even know that Bo City was related to the villages, nor would they realize that they were the descendants of the ancient king. People would only refer to themselves as children of the Yellow Emperor. It was impressive if anyone actually passed on their bloodline for a few hundred years. As for 2,000 years, it was almost impossible to say for sure. But, if you really want me to go down into the Dark Abyss, I can try. I'm already a sinner that has murdered my own tribe. I'm willing to sacrifice my life if it can give the millions of people in this city a chance, said Fang Jiyu. I'm glad to hear that, said Han Ji. President, I'll go too, said Su Xiaoluo. Su Xiaoluo was also from the villages. If Fang Jiyu could enter the Dark Abyss safely, she would be safe too. The Dark Abyss is far from a safe place. You should just stay in the inner city. Fang Jiyu shook his head. Fang Jiyu, can I ask you something? Asked Zhang Xiaohou. Go ahead, said Fang Ji. The ash plum I saw outside of the houses when I was at the Sunny Goat Village. Zhang Xiaohou did not finish his sentence. The ash plum is actually one of our village's traditions. It means that someone in the household has passed away, answered Fang Ji calmly. Every house has it. Does that mean the whole village is dead? Asked Zhang Xiaohou. What you saw were living dead. I just wanted them to make it back to the city and stay there for 7 days, before I will cremate them together with the houses. You battle mages just happened to visit the village during that time. I had no choice but to control the living dead and interact with you, asking you to leave the village as soon as possible. The ash plum in front of every house does mean that they were all dead. So you already noticed that? Replied Fang Ji. I remember when my grandfather passed away, my family placed it in front of the house, so I felt it was familiar when I was at your village, said Zhang Xiaohou. So, you think you two have the lineage of the villages, and you two want to go to the dark abyss, said Fang Ji. Zhang Xiaohou said with a nod, if you can go down there, I should be able to go too. Since it's an imperial tomb, it's going to be dangerous in there still. We can look after one another. What if you aren't one of them? Blurted out Zhou Ming.